What is up, beautiful people? Today we are talking about how to build a winning mentality, a mentality of abundance, how to live on the side of always enough, more than enough. We just had a call with some of our students about the scarcity versus abundant mentality. So we're going to be drilling that in. We're going to give a layout, a game plan for how to stay on that side, stay on that winning mentality. But first of all, type in the chat yes if you like this new setup. We spent a lot of time to get this new setup going for this Tuesday. I know I was here yesterday. Andrew just flew in an hour ago.
I just got in actually about 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
Welcome back home.
Thank you.
Let's
Good
go.
to be home, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Good to be back with you guys. A few of you I was with in person yesterday in beautiful Louisville, so that was nice to see you.
Winning mentality. Guys, this is a way of thinking that allows you to see every challenge as an opportunity. It allows you to see other people and say, hey, how can I serve you today? It allows you to see your bank account, even when it's not at the greatest position, and still say, I know money's coming. God is my source. God is my supply. And I will execute at a high level. I will execute even though I don't feel the best. I will execute even though the bank account's not at the highest point right now, because I know that I can future pace myself and think how my future self would think, who has a lot of money, rather than how my old self or my current self is thinking.
That's so good because for many years, starting out in business, I kept thinking like one day I'll have it and then I'll think it. Right? One day I'll have it, then I'll think it. One day, easy for you to say because you got money in the bank. So all of these negative beliefs. And what I didn't realize is that I would inevitably continue to self-sabotage until I adapted what you are now describing.
Hey, Marilyn, Elizabeth, Mimi, Frankie, Diane, Jerry.
Nice to see you.
Good to see everybody.
Mimi, it was so good to see you last night.
So here is what I was saying earlier. The game plan here is by the end of this episode, you have a roadmap for how to think abundantly and how to make sure that you think in the format of the best version of yourself. Because there is a version of you. There's a version of you that is making the money you want to make. There's a version of you that is free and lives a free mentality. There is a version of you that doesn't skip a workout. There's a version of you that eats really well. There is the sexiest version of yourself that is out there. It exists. But you have to create that version of yourself in your mind first. Because if you kept doing the same thing you're doing, you're going to, in a year, probably be in a very similar place. So you do have to kind of change the tune and say, okay, what if though in a year, if I just worked as hard as I possibly could and I was very abundantly minded, I stuck around these guys, I watched this show and I started reading every day, who could I become? There is a version of you out there. And by the end of this episode, I want to make sure that you can think like that version of yourself and everything you do can be in accordance to that version of yourself.
Now, if some of you have, like I have had, a tough time visualizing what I have not yet seen, the way I started visualizing is I would find someone who was similarly where I want to be in that part of life, whether it be money, health, relationship with God, and I would start asking myself, like, what would they do here? And I would start by future pacing myself that way because I had a hard time visualizing in the beginning because that's a habit. That's a habit that you have to develop.
Yes.
And so if you're having a difficulty of visualizing, what would the 3-year, 5-year version from now say? Now you can ask yourself, what would Leo say in this scenario? What would Andrew say in this scenario? What would somebody else who you look up to in that aspect of life, business, money, finances, relationships, say in that category?
Yeah. Borrow this. Okay, I'm just going to start spewing out the way that we think now. I remember I was very insecure early in high school. And it stemmed from when I was like 12 or 13, like a girl that I like said something and it stuck with me and I kept it going and it grew. That's how all insecurity stems from, by the way, is someone says something to you in an insult or maybe calls you unworthy or calls you ugly or calls you something, and then that seed is stemmed in your mind over the years, and then you start speaking it out as your own word.
Wow.
And your own word is so important because you believe your own word more than anything else, right? The person who's the most impactful person in your life, maybe your mother, maybe your father, that when they speak something, you still believe yourself 10 times more. It's just human nature. So when you start speaking things out to yourself, like I'm not worthy, I'm ugly, I can't make money, like it impacts you and it creates your belief system and it creates your self-image. So going back then to when I was in middle school, someone told me something and it stuck with me up until early high school, until I had a mentor tell me like, hey, you have, however you want to look, right? That's up to you. It is your own confidence level. So when you go in the mirror, you hype yourself up every single day, even if you don't feel it. And trust me, 3 months, you'll feel so great. And that's what we started doing. I would look in the mirror and be like, damn, you look good. It's going to be a great day. You're a sexy guy. And I did that for 3 months. And by the end of 3 months, I had a whole different self-image of myself. And it changed my business. It changed the way I moved. I started becoming an entrepreneur. All decisions were different because of the way I spoke to myself.
Then you walk different. Then you are more sexy, right? Then you are more confident. Then you are the things you've been affirming to yourself. Because the moment we develop a belief around ourselves, our subconscious immediately goes to work to make those things true. Remember,
100%.
Years ago, I used to have this internal thing, and it started just like you said. Right. And I would have this internal thing, and I would trip or I would drop something or I would do something, and that internal programming was so clumsy. And I remember those thoughts because that was the track running in my brain. I didn't realize it was a program. I just thought I was clumsy, right? Because it became my identity. And now as you and I, Leo, talk about this mindset, and I realize we don't have to continue to run the same track we have for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years. You can determine today, I'm going to start talking differently now. I'm going to start viewing myself differently now. And my body, myself, my new track, it will catch up. It will be work, but it will catch up.
But it's a choice.
Absolutely.
You know, I saw a video of this guy, and he was driving, and he's like a comedian, but he was driving, and he almost gets in a car accident, and he all of a sudden says, you know, I got to get right with God. I got to get right with God. And it made me laugh for a moment because I know so many people, and it's not necessarily a laughing matter, but thank God they're safe. A lot of people who almost had a near-death experience changed their life in that moment.
So true.
And they started to say, you know what have I been doing? I've been worrying about the wrong things. I got to get right with God. I got to talk to people better. I got to serve people. And they decide to go on that pathway. Some people don't. They go right back to where they were the next day. But some people go through a near-death experience and decide in that moment to change their life forever, because they realize if they died that day, their families would have no one to provide, and they would all be in such a bad scenario. So those people decided to start thinking abundantly, start thinking like, hey, wow, I'm alive. I have unlimited ability to breathe.
Yeah.
And I can take that same abundance in breath and put it to money. And if I just think in that way, then I can start making more money. But I say that for this reason, because you don't have to go through a near-death experience to change your thoughts. You can today decide to change the way you think about everything, and then you'll see in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, everything in your life starts to change.
What was that for you, Leo, when you realized that you could take charge of your thoughts? Because that's something that you taught me a lot about.
Tony Robbins was my first indirect mentor. I was 15 years old, and I started listening to his tapes, and he became the voice in my mind, right? This is prior to any type of entrepreneurship. He would speak so much good into people and so much good into you through those tapes.
Yeah.
And he would say, the way that you think becomes how you are. And if you continue to speak to yourself in a negative light, you're always going to be negative. You're always going to project what you speak out, because your thoughts are energy. Your thoughts become the way that you feel. The way that you feel becomes the way that you act. The way that you act becomes the results in your life, and that becomes the way you speak to yourself again. So if you simply switched the way that you thought and started focusing on the good, for me, it was just positive, negative at the time. There wasn't any abundance conversation. There wasn't any money conversation. It was just, are you thinking negatively or are you thinking positively?
Yeah.
And simply put, I learned, as basic as it is, when you just focus on the positivity in your life, as soon as you wake up in the morning, your mind, your reticular activating system starts to get used to finding the positive.
Yeah.
And when you do that enough times, let's call it 2, 3, 4 weeks, even just that short amount of time, you get used to seeing the negative and you start seeing the positive in everything and everyone.
That's such a game changer. And if we can make that shift, and, you know, something I forget about sometimes and used to didn't understand was to have grace, of course, for others, but grace for ourselves. That's a shoot. I'll grab some paper towels real quick. We have grace for ourselves.
We have grace for ourselves. So I just dropped some tea on my computer, but I think it's going to live. So in moments like this, right, where years ago you think back of like, oh, wow, if I did that, I would have been so pissed, so angry. But it's a good testament to see, like, a couple years later, absolute no thoughts go in my mind. What we did with our students, thank you, Drew.
You're welcome,
What we did with our students a couple moments ago was I had them do a thought audit. Sounds funny. A thought audit is essentially where you look at your mind like a garden and you ask yourself, hey, what kind of crops do we have, right? A great gardener knows the crops they have. They know the fertilizer they have. They know the seasons. They know the weeds and where they are. They know the pests that come around, all the different things. And how I view the mind, here, I got it. How I view the mind is very similar to how I view a garden. Because any negative thoughts that you have in your mind, they are simply, right on.
It's a live show, guys.
Any thoughts in your mind that are negative, they're weeds, right? God did not give us negative thoughts. And when I realized that, I started to realize, okay, where do those weeds come from? If I look at my garden, I look at the plants that I have, and I look at the weeds. What I have to do is do a thought audit. What are the thoughts that I have on a daily basis when I look at my bank account, when I wake up in the morning, when I go to the gym? What are the thoughts? Used to it was, I'm broke, I don't have enough money, I don't want to be up, I'm so tired. I would say all these things, and it would just further validate the point I was trying to make to myself. Because our minds like to prove the stories that we tell ourselves. Until I did an audit, I fully took a pen and paper out and I wrote down all the thoughts that I had and realized that 80% of them were negative. That's when everything changed for me. Because I simply I looked at the weed, I pulled it out, okay? I pulled out the weed by simply saying, you know what? Maybe I'm broke because I keep calling myself broke. That's pulling out a weed. But you have to fill it up with dirt and you have to put a new seed in there and plant a new seed by saying, I'm becoming more and more abundant. That's a seed.
Right.
But even if you plant a seed, that seed's not going to grow by itself. You got to water it. You got to nurture it. You got to allow it to grow. And that's by continually saying, I'm becoming more and more abundant every day. I'm becoming better with my money. I am rich in life, rich in money. And you say that to yourself consistently. Those are affirmations. But you say them consistently after removing the weed. Does that make sense? Type in the chat yes if that makes total sense.
So, Leo, if you were talking, because I was thinking last night, hosted the meetup, several new faces there, and as I come in contact with people who sometimes are new to our world, I realize, the both of us have been on our journey for many years.
Correct.
So you're talking about, decade long of business expertise or decade long of personal growth journey or all of these various things we've put many years into. And I try to go back to sometimes the early stages. The 21-year-old Andrew who was in downtown Atlanta for the first time experiencing a new world of business. If you could go back to the pre-Tony Robbins Leo, you never heard anything. You just woke up one day and realized you was talking negative to yourself. Like, what would you tell that person? What would you tell that young Leo? Like, what's the action steps to actually do? What is the thing that changes the trajectory of our path, that takes that self-talk from I'm ugly or I'm clumsy or I could never do that, or that's easy for you to say. What would you do to take all that negativity? What's the path that young Leo could start on?
I would tell that young Leo that you are not equal to God, but you are built in God's image. And everything that you have, all the appearances, all the gifts, all the thoughts that you have are all in God's image. You were made for a reason. You were made for a purpose. And I would be a lot more strict with him and say, I would spend a day with him and see what his thoughts are. Anytime he would say anything like I'm broke, I would say, never say that to yourself again. You are only broke because you call yourself broke. Why? Because think about it. Whenever an opportunity comes, you say, but I'm broke, and then you don't take the opportunity. Whenever you want to start working on something, you say, but I'm broke, and then you never take the opportunity. But that opportunity is what gets you to stop being fucking broke.
So true.
But you keep calling yourself broke. So I'll tell him, Leo, shut up. Don't call yourself broke anymore. That is the reason. Okay, next, let's go to another one. Oh, I'm so tired. What if that's the reason you are so tired? Because you are completely validating the fact that you're tired, and then every time you feel a sense of lethargy or fatigue, you seep in it because you say, I'm tired. You're like, oh, and you like to validate it. And then you go take a nap instead of actually getting to work or drinking some water, going for a walk, which is what our body just needs in that moment. I would go to every single thought and invalidate it in the things that you shouldn't be thinking and the thoughts that God did not give us. That's what I would do.
That's powerful. I think that for each of us, as we make that shift, it's a very uncomfortable shift. And something that I didn't realize, again, in the early stages of business was like to take captive those thoughts. Literally sitting there by yourself early in the morning or late at night when everything is quiet, like what is the thoughts you're thinking? What track is running in your mind? What is your mind going to? Is it problem solving? Is it dreaming? Is it growing? Is it positive things? Or is it negative things? That is such a game changer when you realize not only what it is, the thought audit, as you call it, the taking inventory of what your thoughts have been, but to realize in an instant you can say, I'm changing that programming like right now.
There was an experiment. I think it was rice. Could have been something else, but I'm just going to say it's rice, where there was 2 things of rice. Okay, sounds like a super silly experiment, but it brings the point home. One thing of rice, they said a bunch of positive affirmations to, a bunch of nice things. Imagine how crazy that is. It's like Asian crazy stuff when you're saying good things to the rice. And the other one is you're saying a bunch of toxic, mean words. You're terrible, you're ugly, you're fat, you're worth nothing, and they said it to the rice. I think it was like 2 weeks later, the positive one, it stayed attacked. It stayed as just normal white rice. And the other one, it was black and moldy, and it had all these different things germs that had built up on it because they had spoke so many bad words to it. And it molded up and it went bad. And it showed me like, wow, words have so much power and meaning to it. And my 16-year-old mind was like, cap, that didn't happen. But it showed me a really good lesson of, your words mean so much. You're so powerful. Like, and the beginning of the Bible is the Word.
Yeah.
How does it go?
In the beginning was the Word.
In the beginning was the Word.
Yeah, it was with God.
It's so powerful what your words can do to yourself and to other people around you, which is another topic I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is who is around you in your life and in your circle.
Well, there's something, and there's also energy along with words, but you read what you referenced in the Bible. God spoke and it happened. God spoke, the world was created. God spoke and it was done through word. When you realize we're made in God's image, that is powerful to go, oh my gosh, your word carries so much weight. The things you tell yourself, the things you speak out often become your reality. And oh my goodness, when you realize that you're wielding a beautiful weapon known as your words. You know, if you had, I was raised up around guns growing up, and for years I had a Springfield 45 XDS. This Springfield XDS, that thing packed a punch. Beast, right? It was a weapon that was incredible. It got stolen, unfortunately, so I don't have it no more. But it was an incredible, somewhere out there, it's still an incredible weapon. And I share that because holding that gun, I felt safe. I felt protected because I knew I had this incredible weapon under my pillow every night when I went to sleep. And so being able to, now it's a 9, but 45, knowing I had it, knowing it was there, I felt a sense of safety. Now, that being said, that weapon could have also been massively destructive. But because I was trained, I've been through FBI training and CCW trainings and all the crap to get all the permits. I've been through the trainings. I am very confident that I know how to handle that weapon. Your words is a powerful weapon. The challenge was many of us have never been through a word training course to know how to use those weapons. And the weapon can either be destructive or it can build up. God spoke, the world was created. God spoke, it happened. God spoke, animals created. You speak your reality. Imagine it as being created in that moment as you speak it out. As you look at a brother and say, man, you look awesome today. Man, I appreciate you, bro. I so appreciate building business with you. Imagine speaking to somebody that you care about, you appreciate in that way. Imagine you tell those people close to them that you love them, you appreciate them, you're grateful for them. Now imagine you take those same words, but you use them for bad things. The same mouth, the same tongue, the same thing spoken out, you can use to tear down or you can use to build up. It's 100% your choice. And when you realize the communication, the powerful, beautiful tool we've all been given, known as words, oh my gosh, what a incredible responsibility, but honor each of us have.
So welcome to the word-wielding class, where we are learning how to use words for our benefit and the benefit of the people around us.
We're going to start handing out word permits.
If you weren't, school's not going to teach this unless you had a great teacher that loved you and did enough work on themselves to be able to share it with their students. If your parents didn't teach it, and if the school didn't teach it, which for most of the world that doesn't happen, you never really learn it unless you stumble across personal development. And that's why, I love the personal development industry, because they help with these things. There's a lot of false out there, but there's a lot of foundational stuff as well. And what I've realized is that all personal development, this is something I realized the other day, all personal development relates back to biblical principle. Mm-hmm. I had no idea.
Ultimate personal development book is the Bible.
But I couldn't, and this is why I also love personal development, is because if someone told me that and I went to the Bible 4 years ago, I would not be able to interpret any of it. So I wouldn't have had any personal development anyways. So back to personal development, one of the foundational things is your word. It's how you speak to yourself and how you speak to others. So I want to make sure to hammer this home, that there is a game plan. And that game plan is so simply audit the way you speak so you pay attention every day. It is just called being mindful. Type in the chat, mindful. This word is thrown around so many times. Be mindful, mindfulness, all these different things. But what does it actually mean? Being mindful is being able to hear the thoughts in your mind and see that all those thoughts are just flowing like little clouds, okay? And what we do as humans, what we did before was we would become those thoughts. If my mind says something, that's me. That's me saying it. Versus now, you'll notice your thoughts, but you don't collect those thoughts. You don't become those thoughts. You are the person watching those thoughts.
Right.
That is proper discernment.
See, I'll accept that one, but not that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And proper discernment is looking at those thoughts. And, when you build spiritual strength, what I've been seeing is I'm able to see not different colors, but lightness of those thoughts. Because I'll think of something like, I'll for example, I'll pray to God, remove any evil in my life. Yeah. And I'll see a face and I'll be like, wait, where's that coming from? Yeah. But I don't attach to that. I look at it and it's there, right? And same thing when I'm thinking about the day and I start saying I'm tired. I'll look at the thought, but you don't have to accept that thought. Those thoughts are always going to be there. And of course, when you start to affirm yourself every day, I'm abundant, I'm in control of my life, I am becoming more and more strong, I'm becoming more and more confident, a lot of the negative thoughts start to go away. They don't appear anymore. Right. But they're still going to happen because of your environment. Yeah. Because people are saying things, the music you listen to. So then we can also curate our environment where we don't have any of those things either. So there's a lot that goes into it. I know this is like a whole month's worth of a seminar in 30 minutes. But I do hope that you guys can recognize the power of your words.
I think as you're thinking about the words that you allow into your life, as you think about the words you're thinking, the ones you're speaking out, it allows you to be so cautious of who and what is speaking into your life. I was just having a conversation with somebody about that this week, and I said, it is such a powerful thing who you allow to speak into your life. Right. We have that conversation sometimes. I say, consider the source. Right, there's a lot of things you can just go through TikTok
type
or
that in
Instagram.
The chat. Consider the source.
As you're scrolling through, people are telling you advice. Buy houses. Don't buy houses. Make money. Don't make money. Travel. Wait to travel. You're in your early 20s. Grind it out. Take your time. Rest. All of the things, right? You're hearing all of these conflicting messages. You go, oh my gosh, like your brain is spinning. Say, wait a second. Let me find the right guide. For us, it's the word, but let's go back to a foundation and say, where am I headed? And does this align with my values? Does this align where I'm headed? And now we can start shutting out the voices that would be chaotic or bring confusion. The Bible talks about that. God's not the author of confusion because God brings peace. God brings flow. God works through in a very peaceful and incredible way. And if there is chaos, if there's confusion, then we know that that's not of God. So such a powerful thing when you can audit and start turning down voices who might speak into your life that are not in alignment with where you're headed.
Mary asks, what to do if you are being faced with nasty words from others? It's not always easy to combat that.
That's a good question. And the first thing that this is the global answer, right? The global answer is, over the years, I've removed from my life anybody who would be negative. I scroll through my Facebook, I get online, I just don't have anybody in my world or sphere who speaks negatively to me. And that's the first thing that I would be moving toward. The second thing, though, is you're going to encounter people, right? Grocery store, Walmart, go on social media. Somebody somewhere is going to be negative at some point. And so it's going to depend on personality and on goals. For me, I usually find humor in negativity, if that's the appropriate thing, and have a little fun with it. If it is a truly negative person, always saying evil or dark or mean things, if it's my purpose to do so, I'm going to ask them why they're doing that. Right? I want to find out. I want to get to the bottom, because a lot of times that's just someone who is hurting and someone who is crying out for help and don't know how. So the big answer, I always like to distance from negativity and people who carry that kind of crap. And the immediate answer is understand what questions to ask to get to the bottom of the challenge.
Type it in the chat, confidence. And I'm going to explain confidence in the way that we now view it, right? Because what is the root of confidence is to confide, right? When you confide in yourself with things, and when you build true confidence, rather, you confide in yourself with everything. So if you hear nasty words, what's going to happen is that those nasty words will appear in your mind, because it's not like you can completely shut it off. It's going to appear as different clouds, but then you confide in yourself in that moment. Hey, what is this for me? Do I accept the fact that someone just said these nasty words to me? Do I accept it? Do I internalize it? Most of the time, once you build confidence, it is absolutely not, right? And where humor comes in is true confidence. Yeah. Because humor is a beautiful, beautiful weapon, and it is a beautiful deflection weapon. If we see someone on the side of the road for some reason be very negative to us, first thing I smile. I say, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And then, of course, that leads us to a more gentle approach. But Andrew has seen me where I used to be a very angry person. So if someone yelled at me, I would yell back 5 times harder. I would stop the car, get out. And because I always looked for that type of fight, because I had so much anger as a child. But it wasn't until I became mindful of things where I stopped for a minute and confided in myself, hey, this person's angry. They're probably having a terrible day right now. I don't have to internalize a single thing about this. How do I want to respond to it? And it's hard, because what happens also is the anger right here builds up and you feel it come up. But if you're mindful, you are also able to not only detach from words, but detach from emotions. Hey, I feel this anger coming up. I don't have to be the anger. The anger doesn't control me. I control the anger. I have it. It's an expression I like to use.
Yeah.
For example, I'll go to the gym and allow that anger to be used. But that's the point, is we utilize that anger. We utilize that feeling in the moment. When it comes up, you're very mindful of it.
Something that I realized, and this is a practice I went through years ago in my mind, because I didn't understand people that would try to, for no reason, seemingly no reason, just blow up at others. And like if somebody's been wronged and then they react away, like, while I not necessarily doesn't mean it's healthy, but I get that logically. And so I'm like questioning, like, why in the world? And what I realized was it's the people's perspective of themselves. So anytime somebody would randomly begin to be extremely mean or do something very angry, I would imagine they was holding a mirror up in front of them and how much they must hate themselves.
Yeah.
And as I realized that was the reality, I'm no longer taking that on, going, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, what? It has nothing to do with you. Had nothing to do with me. Had everything to do with the fact they didn't like what they seen in the mirror. They was angry at life, and so they were looking for an outlet. They may not even knew that, but that's what was going on.
There's levels to confidence, because when that starts to happen, it comes from a love, right? Because in the beginning, it's like, oh, you must hate yourself. Right. You hate yourself so much that you got to comment on. That's still allowing that negative comment or nasty words to get you fired up. It develops over the years. It's not this is the one thing that's not an instant thing, because emotional control, emotional intelligence takes years of time to be able to learn. However, when it comes to the next level of confidence, it's grace and love to know that people have had terrible childhoods and they didn't learn how to express themselves, so they're putting it onto you. You have the opportunity to be a vessel there in that moment to show them love. And it will either be received very terribly, because that's how they are, or it'll be received very well.
Yeah.
Or nothing will happen. They'll go back home and they will think about that. There's been so many instances in my life where, because I've had over 1 billion views on social media, there was a lot of hateful comments. I would reply to every single one of them, or most of them that I would see, and I would text them saying, are you okay? Like, how are you doing? And a lot of the times it would flip and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I've been having a terrible day. I just want to take it out on somebody. That teaches you to realize that a lot of people are doing that in the world. And it's very wide now because of social media.
Yeah.
You see how many people are hurting because of the negative comments. Why else would they do? Why else would you sit down, say something negative if you weren't hurting yourself?
Yeah.
Right. So that is the next level of confidence, is love for yourself, love for other people, regardless of how they treat you. And sometimes love for yourself is simply removing them from your life, and love for the other person is removing them from your life.
Right. That's such a powerful thing, and something that I didn't understand for years was forgiveness doesn't mean opening up for people to use you, as I say in an extreme way, use you as a doormat. And that's such a powerful moment when you can say, wait a second, forgiveness, kindness means I can treat a person kind, but it doesn't mean that I have to be best friends with them, right? I choose my circle so cautiously, my soulmates, the few people who we do life with on a continual basis, on those lifetime relationships that are created. And when you choose that circle, doesn't mean that somebody who's shown themselves, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them, right? Just doesn't mean you have to be angry or unkind.
100%. So I challenge you guys to develop such a great relationship with yourself where you can confide in yourself and discern whether a nasty thought or any thought is for you or not. And then also being able to just simply be so mindful every single day. And how I do is I look at my hands. I tap my computer, and I say, I'm tapping my computer right now. I'm touching my hat. I'm picking up some tea, and I'm drinking some tea. I'm being very mindful at the moment of everything that's going on. Now I'm able to pay attention to my thoughts. Oh, hey. Okay, why do I feel this way? Why am I so angry right now? Ask yourself that question out loud. Why am I angry right now? It's because I've had a bad day. Why are you having a bad day right now? It's because I'm tired. Why are you tired? All of a sudden, you get deeper and deeper and deeper to the root of the cause of your negativity. That is deep work. That is 7 years of therapy.
That's powerful.
Into your own habit. It's like if therapy had 2 packages, right? One DIY, one DWI. Do done with you or do it yourself, right? Done with you is 7 years, 7 years. And therapy is amazing. I know a lot of people go through therapy and also have this skill and they just use it as an outlet and they get so much benefit. But that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, how many years? The DIY version is you develop the habit of mindfulness and you pick out the weeds, pick out the negative thoughts and plant a new seed of positivity or growth thought of the person you want to become. Of course, that's a lot in one sentence, but you do that every day and you actually do it all throughout the day. Because in moments right here, for example, when I drop the tea, I pay attention to what's going through my mind. Andrew's also paying attention to what's probably going through my mind and what's going through his mind. And that's why we're able to stay so calm with everything and know that we're okay. So my urge to you guys is that you become very, very mindful and you be very mindful today in this moment and start switching those thoughts around. Yeah.
That's powerful, man. And I think for everyone listening to this, you get to choose the life you have. Remember, your words are powerful. Your words can bring life or death. Life and death. The Bible says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Wow. When you start to visualize in that way, imagine that literally the words you spoke immediately happen. Like you'd be so careful what you said, right? So even self-deprecation, even negativity, you realize that immediately if you spoke and it happened, you would think before you spoke. And so understanding that there is literally life and death in the power of the tongue, people who consistently believe they are getting better, people who are consistently speak life, speak love, speak goodness, they, scientifically proven, are healthier, happier individuals. There's whole books about it. I don't have time to get into that on today's episode. I think it's such a powerful thing, though, that as we can really step into that next level of really impact, because it's not just for you. It's not just so you can feel better. It is so we can feel better, yes, but it's also so we can impact the world in the way we were meant to. You can use the skill of knowing your words in sales and helping people discover your services. You can use that same in communicating with others, with business partners, with friendships, with relationships. And when we really take that into consideration, everything can begin to shift in a way we never dreamed possible. And boy, what a ride it can be.
100%. So to wrap up, there's a couple of books I'll say, and then you say a couple of books. One book that changed my mentality, 2 books that changed my mentality. Write it down, type in the chat. The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. We'll do a call. We'll do an episode on morning routines and how we do our mornings. The Miracle Morning, it teaches us about affirmations. The first place I learned it. Number 2 is Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. This book, I was going to say single-handedly, but I guess with Hal Elrod's book, changed the way I view myself, changed the way I view others, found the gold in me that was already there. Just like you. You have gold in you. You just have to find it within yourself. Those 2 books completely changed my mentality forever.
I would have to say one of my very favorites is The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That is by far one of my favorite books that is, as you said, it's pretty much based on the Bible. It's just biblical principles tied throughout the entire thing of how we think and how we talk. It's who we become. Second book. I may need a second for that one. I think this is not along the mindset like I would be thinking, but understanding the Think and Grow Rich principles. There's a whole segment in there talking about how we do deals, how we think, how we speak, talking about mastermind, talking about our surroundings. So I would have to say that's my number 2 right off the bat. But number 1 would definitely be The Power of Positive Thinking. Guys, I'm telling you, change how you think will change how you live. Change how you talk will change your life and the world around you in a matter of weeks or months. And I want to throw this out, this challenge for you as you're starting to do this, because the first thing that happened for me when I started to do this, if there's good, there's evil. If there's a good attempt to do something right, there's always going to be a pullback. There's always going to be a reaction. The moment I decided I was going to start thinking differently and talking to myself differently, immediately some things went wrong. And it was like, yep, see, I knew that stuff didn't work. And I had those thoughts in my mind that would immediately start to pull me back from what I was attempting to do. So for any of you who are practicing what we just talked about today, know that those thoughts may come up. Something goes wrong today and you're like, crap, that stuff didn't work for me. You have those thoughts. Give it time. Try it at least 30 days. Don't give up on it. Watch what begins to happen when you focus on the good, focus on the right, and focus on speaking life. And there will still be crap that happens. Your perspective will be different. Even though bad things start to happen or do sometimes happen, your perspective will be massively different, and then your whole reality begins to shift. You attract who you are.
Amen. Guys, we're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place. This has been a lot of fun. This is another come back, rewatch it. We've been putting out some fire.
Yeah.
We get a lot of texts from you guys saying how much this has changed your life, changed your mentality. Some of you guys are getting a lot of checks in your businesses also, and it's beautiful, beautiful to see. So we're going to keep doing the work we do and showing up with full energy. We just ask for you. If there's people that need this, share it out and use these mentalities and use these game plans.
Absolutely. We'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. Thanks for being here, guys.
Peace.